Suavelos, subuta, canole ecolinguist, anman mon etsi morgan, gaesatis inierti galataki. Canolis gasuiros etsi mi, disondu iactin ac menman galatakon nennaliumi. Iactin galatakin con decan sonokingon lutos gnio. Sindio, emessi com, Paul, etic Angharad eti Daniel. Nu, iegumi sue, ac cloio.
Le maio, mish Paul, tami beons manin as da gilg vanninachem. Tami me erins I gilgach, na kitten tami gavrach ons na skallion, ach son a goed smoo nish, tami gavrach linje, ginzak des la jesit. Vami rugetus tragit os a talu vretnach, as ta pet de vretnachem nish. As ek tretun tami ginzach idelish. Tami digon romlish goeliarn ons a chali shaw. Goramaio.
Angharad ydw I, dwi'n byw yng nghanolbarth Cymru, yng Ngheredigion, yn yr ardal sy'n cael enwi yn Elenidd fan hyn, sef Mynyddoedd y Cambrian. Dwi'n siarad Cymraeg a dwi yn gwybod rhywfaint o ieithoedd Celtaidd eraill, ond dim llawer.
Salutor, me zo Daniel, me zo ishom ba Breir, Bretagne, me goms Galek, Bronek a Sauznek. Hag me zo kelener ar Sauznek, ar Galek, ar Bronek. Chetu.
Nu, bristan enter sue regu, achasindan. So, we start with one sentence in Gaulish. I will read it to you out loud, and I will give you some time to think about what the translation is. Then afterwards, you will see the sentence written on the screen. Maybe it's going to ring some more bells to you, and we'll give you some more time. And then we go one by one, trying to see what your translations are, what your impressions are. So first sentence. Regu litawon carron com nerto maurus epus.
Could you repeat it?
Yes. Regu litawon carron com nerto maurus epus.
I think I'm really stuck here at the moment. I haven't got much clue about that.
Could you repeat the sentence and slower, please?
Yeah, sure. So one last time, and then we see the written version after. Regu litawon carron com nerto maurus epus. We lost video connection with Paul, unfortunately. We can still hear him, so we'll continue with audio only. Let's see the sentence, and I'll read it again. Regu litawon carron com nerto maurus epus. Right. So, Angharad, what do you have?
You know, there's not a lot that I can get hold of in there. I'll just talk through the words which I might have a handle on, and I'm just going to go through the words one by one where I think that there might be something that I can recognise. Well, I mean, we're talking about Gaulish, so saints aren't going to be the thing. We've got a Saint Caron in Welsh, which is spelt with a single L, but that's not likely, I don't think, of his Gaulish. Com sounds like Latin for with. It's sort of, I guess it's cognate with the Welsh gan, which means with also. Netomaurus, I really don't know. That's quite a long word. You know, there's the concept of, I don't know. An epus, the last word, the closest Welsh word I can think of is ebol, which means foal, and I really don't know. That's all I can get. Foal, as in a young horse. Other than that, I don't know. I'm lost with that.
What would you say for a full sentence? No guess?
I can't actually make a guess. I don't know. I would just put there's a with in the middle of it, and the rest I'm very unsure about, and that's a bit of a guess as well.
And Daniel?
Well, I think I recognize the nertomarus. Nert, that will be maybe nech in southern Breton, which means strength or energy. And marus sounds like, in southern Breton, there's a word which is, it's meur. In standard Breton, it means big. It means great or big. meur, pe mar. And caron may be a chariot, like car in Breton, or car. That's a chariot. That's all I see.
And now you've said Nerth Mawr. Yeah, that would be Nerth Mawr in Welsh. So yeah, that now makes sense to me. Yes.
Do you have an idea for the sentence, Daniel? The full translation?
The full translation, no, not really. Litavon, lita, lida, ledev.
I've got half an idea for that now.
Ledev, maybe ledau, lediv, maybe something that's that's wide. I don't know. Wide, or maybe it's a measure, or I don't know.
And Paul, do you have a translation for this?
Well, it was very hard to understand, so I don't know if I've got a translation, but some of the words remind me of words in Manx and a few in Welsh, because although I live in the Isle of Man and I speak Manx Gaelic, I come from Wales and I know some Welsh as well, so I'm familiar with the Q Celtic languages and the P Celtic languages to some extent. The first word, regu, could be connected to the Manx word ri, meaning a king. And then it was only when one of the other two guests pronounced this next word that it reminded me a little bit of Llydaw for Brittany in Welsh. I don't know if it's O King of Brittany or something like that. And then carron. In Manx we have the word cer, meaning like a vehicle or a cart or something like that. So it could be some kind of vehicle, such as a chariot. Cum, as Angharad said, reminds me of Latin cum, with. And I can't think of something that is connected to that in Manx necessarily. Nertomaros, before I saw it written, that was what jumped out. Because in Manx, nyat means strength and muir means big. So I thought it might be either a name meaning strong, big person, or some kind of form of address. And then epus at the end, I think could be to do with horses. In Manx we have ach, which is an older word and means a horse, and the ch sound usually represents a P or a B in the P Celtic languages, such as Welsh and Breton and Cornish. So it could be something to do with that. So if I had to offer a translation, O King of Brittany, I don't know, maybe, bring chariots and horses of great strength. I don't know, something like that, maybe.
Thank you, Paul. So I'll give you the translation. So what it means in English. I drive a wide chariot with strong horses. So Paul, you were the closest one. You only these first two words you didn't know what they meant, but the rest, that's exactly it.
After Daniel spoke there, I thought Litauen, and I saw Litauen, and we've got Llydan for wide in Welsh, and that occurred to me then. So yes, that makes sense too. Yes.
The Lita one now, I understand the in Breton that will be ledan. Ledan, that's wide or large. Ledan.
And we have Llydan for it in Welsh, yeah.
How would you translate the I drive a white chariot with strong horses in your languages? Angharad, what would it be in Welsh?
Chariot isn't a word I use too often, but dwi'n gyrru car Llydan gyda ceffylau nerthol.
And Daniel?
Okay. Me, that will be me conduit au har ledan geronset crown.
Very interesting. So ledan, as we see, it's pretty similar, but the other words are fairly different. I think maybe it's a case of semantic shift where the root, epus didn't give the common word for horse in languages. I think Angharad, I heard the word keffel, right? In Welsh?
Yes, keffil is what I used there, but the word that you used, epus, is I guessed that because I said foal, which is a young horse, because we have ebol for foal. So I thought the EP and ebol sounded similar. So yes.
Yeah, in Breton, foal it's also ubel, a nubel, a nubel.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So I believe kefil is from a similar root as Gaulish kabalos, and in French it gave us cheval, for example, or chivalry in English. So for the first word, regu, which means I drive, I have a couple cognates that I found in related languages. Unfortunately, I don't have cognates in Breton, but I have for Welsh, ré, if I'm pronouncing correctly, ré. So I think it means a similar thing. And in Irish, it's éirí, though we don't have Irish speakers there, just as a fun fact. And it's close to Latin rego, so and you have that. And then Litauan, well, in Welsh you have the word hlidan, right? Means wide, and similar to Breton also. And for the word carron, which means chariot, well, most European, at least Western European languages have a word for car that's related to that. At least Germanic languages, and in Quebec French you have char, which means like a car, like a motor car. And I think in Welsh you have car, which means like a car. In Breton too, right? Like a vehicle, motorized vehicle.
That's car.
Yes.
Car.
Yeah.
Actually, it's actually from the Gaulish word. In English, it's from the Gaulish word because the Latin took it from Gaulish, and then English got it from Latin afterwards. But it's a native Celtic word. And then we have a cum, which was connected to Latin cum, and also the cumru. The cum part in cumru, cumrai for Welsh.
Oh, okay. Kem.
Kem, there you go, which means with or like together, right? Komborogi, right? Yeah. And then you have nerto, that I think most of you understood as meaning strength. In Welsh, it's nerth, similar to Breton also. They have a word similar to this. And marus, marus, strength, great strength. So that's a way to say strong. It's a personal name you see in Gaulish often. Nerto maros means a strong person. And then you have epus, so horse. You have cognates in an Irish ach. I think for few Celtic languages you have that too. I didn't know about Breton and the Welsh, the Breton and the Welsh cognates. What were they again? You said apple?
Ebel.
Ebel in Breton.
Ebel, yeah. Now, Paul, does the translation help understand the language? Do you see anything that makes sense now?
Yes. In Manx, we have the word liein, meaning wide, liein. In Irish, it's liehan with a h. So there was originally a T in the middle once upon a time. So now I can understand it more. Yeah. As the normal word in Manx for horse is carvel, which is similar to the Welsh keffel, and as you were saying, ach is connected to this epus word, and that's an old-fashioned word, means like a steed, a horse for riding. In Manx, I would say, tami giman feniach lesh carvel niartel.
Okay, so good job. As you see, when you hear it, or when you see it, maybe it's not obvious, but afterwards you get to see that the words maybe have changed meanings, but they're still kind of similar, right? Since Gaulish is like Latin, so each word has like the ending changes. So sometimes if you remove the ending, maybe it's going to be closer. That's just a hint to help you with Gaulish. So the second sentence now. Giamu tigu gobanos dede cladion isarni regani. I will read it again. Giamu tigu gobanos dede cladion isarni regani.
I'm definitely going to need to see this written.
Me too. Me too.
Right.
Could you repeat it one more time? Just slower, a little bit slower, please.
Yes. Giamu tigu gobanos dede cladion isarni regani. Right. So let's see it written out. Giamu tigu gobanos de decladion isarni rigani.
Oh, okay.
So, Angharad, do you have a translation?
I'm going to make some guesses. Dear something, we ask you to put on your coats or something like that, your apparel. Something like that. Something along those lines. I'm looking at words like gobanos and thinking that means we ask. Gofynir, govin in Welsh is to ask. Amu, it sounds like dear, and that would be from Latin amore, or perhaps or something like that. And I'm not sure what the tigu means. Dede looks like it might be from tu, the second person. Whether that's singular or plural, I don't know. Cladion, rigani sounds like it might be something to do with clothes. There you are. That's my guess. And probably a mile out now.
Thank you. All right, and Daniel.
I get a few words there. I don't know. Tigu makes me think of tea, house, because we have tieger. Tieger, that will be a household, and tieger. And gobanos, I know that from Gaulish, the B Gaulish tend to be V in Breton. So they maybe go on. That may be something to do with the forge or the smith, a smith or a forge. And cladion sounds like the standard Breton clézin. It means a sword, and isarn, huarn. The S in Gaulish tend to become an H in Breton, so that might be iron or isarn, huarn. That's the iron, and that's all I can get. In the Rigani, I don't know what it is. Giamu.
Yeah, I was looking at that word cladion, and you said what in Welsh would be cleddyf, the sword.
Clézin, yeah.
Yeah, I was also thinking of clavy, which is to bury. To bury under the ground.
Oh.
And those were two other possibilities that hit me. But that gobanos, gov is what I was thinking, but govin in Welsh is to ask. But I can see why you could also associate it with a smithy, with the iron, which would be hayarn in Welsh, isarni. Are we anywhere near right?
Should I ask Paul? Yes, Paul.
Yeah, this was difficult. I'm not sure. The first word didn't really sound like anything for me. The second word made me think of the Manx word tai, meaning a house. And gobanos sounded like, I know there's a Celtic god, like a smith god, that's a name, Gobanon or Govanon or something. In Manx we have Gau. Gau is a smith. And then, like Daniel, I thought maybe cladion, because I thought of smith, I thought of weapons and clew. Clew is Manx. Clew or clew is a sword in Manx. And then the next word made me think, well, it could be iron swords, which would be yarn. I don't know whether the Dede is connected to some of the Romance languages have a word for give, such as dare. So maybe we give iron swords to the smith god. I don't know, that might be a bit far-fetched, but those are the words that jumped out at me.
Thank you, Paul. Bratonte, like we say in Gaulish. So let's have the English translation now. Last winter, the divine smith gave an iron sword to the queen. So there you go. I think, you understood. Most of you understood the sword part and the smith part. Got right, but the other words. What's your impression, Daniel, on this?
So now, Guillaume, I can see the cognate with Breton, which is Gouan pe Guyan in the south. Guyan, it means winter. Guyan, Guan, Guyan, winter, and that's and I don't know, Rigani, the queen.
And Angharad, that's your impression.
Yes, Giamu Gaiaf in Welsh. Gaiaf Tigu Diwetha. Well, that's probably not a cognate. It doesn't sound like it. But yeah, Gobanos makes sense for, as we were discussing earlier, Gov, which is Smith in Welsh. Dede isn't in I can't think of a modern Welsh cognate for that, but Cladion, Cleddyf, Isarni, Hayarn, Rigani. Well, that sounds more like Latin to me. It's not Brenhines, which is the Welsh for queen. So, yeah, interesting. I wouldn't have worked that out.
Yeah, me neither.
Yes. So the cognates that from this sentence here, I think you've all talked about them. You got them right. We have Gaiv for Giamu for winter in Welsh, right? And Gov for the smith. Is that the common word for smith, or is that like a mythic figure? Or
in Welsh?
Yes, in Welsh, yes.
Yes, Gov is smith, but there's another word for smith as well. And because we're thinking of one line, I can't think of the other now. Evile. Evile is the other word.
Do you have the character Govan, right? Does that ring a bell?
No,
no, Govanon, yes. Yeah, Paul, what's your impression with?
I think I've heard of Govanon maybe in some of the old Welsh tales as a smith god. I can't remember if I got the name right. Now that I see this written, in Manx we have Giaura for winter, which is... in Manx spelling you can't tell that it comes from this, whereas Irish and Scottish, they spell very etymologically, and they have MH in their word for winter, so you can see that there used to be an M in it, even though they would pronounce it quite like the Manx, Giaura. But Manx is spelled how it sounds, so you can't tell. And but yeah, I think I was thrown because I thought Tigu was connected to Tai for house, so that confused me.
Me too. Yeah.
And when you said that, I thought it too. So yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
And of course, we have Ri for king in Manx, and Ben Rain, which means kind of woman king, if you like. The rain bit would be the bit that's connected to the Rigani there, I think.
In Old Breton, Ri was still the king. Now in modern Breton, it became Roué.
That must be from French, right? Le Roué, from modern Middle French.
Maybe.
Yes. You would say Le Roué François, so it sounds like similar to
Roué. Yeah, maybe under the influence of French, yeah.
Maybe.
And a queen, that's a Rouanis.
And Welsh has wandered quite a long way from that, with Brenin for king and Frenhines for queen. So I wouldn't have got it with the knowledge of Welsh. I mean, I might have get it from the knowledge of Latin-based languages, but not from Welsh.
What would the sentence be in your language, Daniel?
In Breton, that will be Ergoin diwean, ergo en dwe reit erglean en warn derwanis.
Angharad, what would it be?
So in Welsh, it would be Gaeaf Diwetha, rather the Gof gleddyf i'r frenhines.
And Paul?
In Manx, it would be os y yewr y sio hai, hwg yn gew, clayw yarn, den ven rain.
Very interesting, thank you. Yes. Third sentence. I'm going to read it in Gaulish. So, Sindiu siach sau trais valcus moccus in kaitu. I'm going to read it again. Slower, maybe.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Sindiu siach sau trais valcus moccus in kaitu. Are you ready to see it written out?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Sindiu siach sau trais valcus moccus in kaitu.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You got it?
I have, I think I have an idea. What I understand here, it's today, something, maybe a verb, 3 balcus, I don't know what it is. Mocus, that means moch, that's a pig, or boar, pig. In kaitu, there's the word quet. In Breton, in southern Breton, we say quet for forest or a wood. So sindiu, that may be today, 3 pigs in the wood. That's what I understand.
Angharad, what's your
I'm
translation?
happy to go with that. It's interesting. Sindiu, yeah, I can see where that comes from with dew. Heddiw, that would be in Welsh if it was for today, but dew from dew, yeah, makes sense. Trace, I picked up as 3 in Welsh, but that makes sense. I was looking at Saxo and thinking, wondering, no, that wouldn't even make sense from a historic sense, but it looks like Saxon, Sassenach and all that. But I think that's unlikely because of the time of the relevant languages. Mocus, moch in Welsh and I think in Irish too for pig. Balcus, you've also got Balcus. Cow is bilch, but that doesn't make sense. Balcus, what you're looking for an adjective here, really, aren't you? And kaitu, coed in Welsh is wood, so that could be right. But it'd be stretching it a bit. I'm only saying that because I just heard Daniel mention it. It's a little bit further than the Welsh that I'd be able to recognise it from that. And I'm guessing in means in. we or un, that would be in Welsh, wain, in a kaitu in a wood. Yeah, we could put together a sentence from that, but some of it would be slightly guessing, I think. But there is some we could make a guess at a sentence from that, I think.
What would your guess be?
Today I saw 3 something. I'll have to come back to that adjective. Pigs in a wood. I'm not sure of the adjective in there. Fat, balch, that would be tew in Welsh, but balch, proud, balch, proud. 3 proud pigs in a wood. There you go. There's a translation for you. It didn't sound very sensible, but there it is. Today I saw 3 proud pigs in a wood.
Thank you. Paul, do you have a translation in the insight?
I don't really have a translation. This one's very difficult. I think the idea of sindiu possibly being today could work in Manx. That would be Jew. In Scottish Gaelic, they say anju, a bit longer. It could just be the, maybe, because un is the in Manx, and I think that comes from an older form that was something similar to this. Then it looks like numbers. Tres looks like 3 in Manx for 3. Siaksu could be another number as well. Could be she or shach. She is 6 and shach is 7. Then when I heard it, the thing that jumped out was it sounded like the Manx word for pig, which is muck, and then in something, And I'm not sure about balcus. If it is an adjective, the only thing it looks a little bit like is the Manx word bulg, which means belly or stomach. So it could mean fat, or it could mean a bag or something. I don't know. And then I think, having heard the other ideas, it sounds like it's connected to wood at the end, coed in Welsh. But in Manx, we don't have that word. We have another word, kel for wood. So I don't really have a sentence, but it sounds like it's about pigs, but that could be a complete red herring.
Well, thank you. All right, are you all ready for the translation, the English translation? So, today I hunted 3 strong boars in the forest.
Okay.
So, as you both said, proud, but you can see how proud became strong became the word for proud, right? It makes sense. But otherwise, the siachsal was a problem, but the rest of the sentence you all got pretty much correct, you know. So siachsal, I'm not sure if there's any cognates in Welsh, Breton, but I know it's cognate with Latin sagio and English seek, like I seek. So it's from an old Indo-European root. And all the other words I think you got correctly, but for balcus, for the Q Celtic part of things, I found a word balk. Maybe I'm not pronouncing correctly, but it means downpour. So Paul, does that ring a bell? Like downpour, like rain, balk, B-A-I-L-C.
I've not heard that word in Manx. But there might be a word that I don't know, but I've not heard that before, no.
Yeah, it must be like a particular Irish word, because it's changed meaning a lot. The word for pig, it hasn't changed much in the Celtic languages. And in, of course, old Indo-European root there. And you also got the word for forest, so in Welsh, coed, right? Coed. And what was it in Breton again, forest?
In southern Breton, it's quit, and in northern Breton, it's quat. Quit in the south, where I live. Quit.
So it's very changed almost. So Angharad, what would your translation be in Welsh?
Heddiw helais I dri moch crafion yn y coedwig. I've just explained that briefly. Coed is wood, coedwig is a larger wood, and so therefore a forest. I've also used a slightly older term, still in use in parts, to make the adjective agree, which seems to fit this closer for cryf, which is strong. Crafion would be the more traditional Welsh. So, heddiw helais I dri moch crafion yn y coedwig.
And Daniel, what would it be in Breton?
In Breton, that will be hiriv mus gibweset tri fimor crown erhuit.
Very interesting. And Paul, in Manx, what would it be?
In Manx, this would be Jew ren mi shelg tri mugen ledger unsachel.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Can I just ask a question about that? So I'm just looking at in kaitu at the end there. Now you've translated that is in the forest. Where's the definite article? Because to me in Welsh, without knowing, I would say that was in a forest, because Welsh doesn't have would not use indefinite article. So I would guess it was the indefinite.
Right, and the definite article, what is it in Welsh again? Right.
Just the letter yeah, Y. It's an in most Celtic languages, an, but in Welsh it's Y.
Yes, I can't remember the Gaulish root for this, or if there's a cognate in Gaulish for the definite article, but in Gaulish, like in Latin, there's no definiteness or infiniteness. Indefiniteness, I mean, for the words, so you have to understand with context. But as you see with today's Sindhu, you see a word with that root, meaning kind of that, means that, this. So it kind of is used in a definite article way, but not always. But you see kind of a tendency for that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, are you ready for the last sentence?
I'll just add something quickly about what I said in Manx there. We would, in Manx, muck just means a pig, and I just used the word pig there because it was similar to that. We have other words for a boar. We sometimes say puren for boar, or kolach muck, which would mean like a stallion pig, if you like. But in the translation, I just used muggen, meaning pigs.
Yeah. Well, in Breton, you have the mort, that's the pigs, and pimor, that's one pig, and you have for a boar, that will be morgui, wild pig.
No, we could go for mochyn gwyllt in Welsh.
Mochyn gwyth. Okay.
Similarly.
Morgui.
Similarly.
Very, very interesting. So, are you ready for the last sentence?
Yes.
Et sideruon in mediu enter vidim abonim et isenim tegim. All right, I'll read it again. Et sideruon in mediu enter vidim abonim et isenim tegim. There might have been some French inflection in that last reading. One last time, I'll make it a bit more Gaulish. Et sideruon in mediu enter vindim abonim et isenim tegim. So let's see the written version. Et sideruon in mediu enter vindim abonim et isenim tegim. Are you more enlightened?
I have a start on it.
What would your translation be, Angharad?
Okay, so Derwan, I'm fairly sure is going to be from deru, which in Welsh is oak, but I think it has an older meaning of tree, generally. So Etsy, I'm also thinking about my very, very vague knowledge of Latin, but knowledge of other languages which might have been influenced by it. So I'm thinking this tree in. And I'm thinking that means in the middle, but again, that's not a Welsh cognate. That's more thinking of Latin languages. Enter. I'm getting a bit lost here, but that might be between, and I'm fairly lost for the next bit. But it's talking about a tree, or possibly specifically an oak tree.
Thank you, Daniel.
Yeah, I think thanks to Angharad, I have the So derwon, that sounds like derw in Breton. That means an oak tree. An oak tree in mediu. I don't see what it is. Enter, and thanks to Angharad, yes, I think it's also something like between. Etre in Breton. Windim, abonim, eti, senim makes me think of the sen, hen in Breton. So I know that the S became H in Breton. So hen, that will be old or ancient, and or old. Tegim, again, tegim. I cannot think about anything else but a house. Again, tiger. I don't know. T. That's all I see. So there's an oak tree in between between the something and an old something.
Thank you, Paul. What do you have?
Yeah, I heard before I saw it written, I thought I heard something to do with an oak tree and a river, and because in Manx oak is darach. It was the Welsh word though that it sounded more like derwen, and then we have awin for river, like Avon in Welsh. So those are the ones that jumped out. Now I see it written. There's not much more there to help me. And again, the in medio looks so much like something in Latin or a Romance language for in the middle. That might be throwing me off. But it's definitely, I did wonder whether derwan could, instead of being an oak tree, it could mean a druid or the druids. Because the word is sometimes connected. Drúach means a magician, or drúchtach in Manx. And then enter looks like it could be between, maybe between the river and, I thought house as well at the end. Tai is the Manx word for house, which is, again, it's written Thie, Tai, quite phonetically. Whereas in Scottish Gaelic, it's Tai, written Taigh, and that shows you that there was a G in it at one point. So that could be, I thought that would be house. And Daniel said old, and that could be right as well, because in Manx we have shan or shen for old. So an old house would be shan tai. Or maybe it's his house. I don't know. So not much there really. just odd words. Not much of a sentence with any sense to it.
Well, thank you. All right, so the English translation is: there is an oak tree in the middle between the White River and the old cabin.
Okay. The old cabin.
Right, white Gwyn.
Wow. So I put tree in parentheses because it's not in the Gaulish, but there was means oak tree basically, and it's related to the root for druid, because the druid are the knowers of the oak, druides or something like that, druids basically. And so the cognates here, so Etsy, it's related to a lot of Indo-European languages for the third person singular, esti in ancient Greek, and est in Latin. Maybe I got wrong with the ancient Greek there. I got maybe confused with something else, but yeah, it's esti, I think. And then for the Celtic languages, I don't think it survived. Right? Does that at sea, right? Maybe in Irish, ish. In Manx, what would does that ring a bell for the verb to be at sea?
We have two verbs to be in Manx. We have it's called the copula, which is either just an S on its own, or she combined with like he is or it is, but it's only used very sparingly, and so. Yes, we do have that. But we have ta, meaning like in the present tense, more with a temporary meaning. So we would say ta darach or savein. There's an oak in the middle. But if you wanted to say what is it, you could say she darache. It is an oak. So something that's more temporary would use ta, and something that's more innate would use this is or she verb.
Yeah, I think the ish might be from this root, but not sure exactly. For that one here, so in you understood it correctly. It means oak, but also the English word tree is from the same root. So it got kind of changed meaning over time in English, but it's from an very old root that meant oak. Or like hard or something like this. Depends on the languages. And then for middle, it's cognate with the Latin medium. So if you know Latin, you probably notice that. And but I don't think I've never found a cognate in Welsh. In Irish, you've got mide or something like that. What's the word for middle, Paul, in Manx?
The word for middle is main. And I know that main, in Manx, it's spelled M-E-A-N, but in Irish, it can be M-E-A-D-H. I don't know if it's O-N or A-N at the end, but they definitely have a D-H that's silent in the middle. So that looks like it's from the same root.
Yeah. An old root too, yeah. And enter between, you understood that. Winding means white here. So for white, Yes, in Welsh you've got gwyn. Yes.
Gwyn, which does, yeah, you can see the win ending of it there. Gwyn, and Welsh puts G's at the first and takes them off in certain circumstances. Win in certain circumstances is white in Welsh because of the mutation system, which if you study the Celtics, you know about.
Wind. In southern Breton, the white is dwen. Gwen in standard, that's white, and derwen, that's an oak tree. That's one oak tree. So that's a lot of them. And abon doesn't exist in Breton because for river we have the word we have two words mostly, like ster and guach. That's the two words we have for river. And but it stayed in place names in Brittany. You have Avon in place names for rivers, Avon, but it's not used anymore. And senim, that's the old. We use another word for old in Breton, which is in modern Breton, that's cour in the south and cause in the north. And the sen, we still have it, but to mean ancient. Hen, which is hen. And there's a town near where I live, which is called Henbon. It means the whole bridge. Henbon. Yeah. So
yeah, like in Welsh too, hen. Yeah. And it's related to Latin senex, also means old or old person.
Yes.
Yeah. Hen. And the French, the Sénat, sénateur, that's the Senate. Le Sénat.
Senil.
Senile, yeah.
Exactly.
Are you calling politicians senile or something?
Oh yes. What would the sentence be in your languages? What would be Angharad in Welsh?
Mae hen ddewren yn y canol rhwng yr afon gwyn a'r hen caban.
I see. I heard caban at the end, right? It sounds so similar to cabin in English, but also caban in French.
Yeah. I'm not. It's like, I mean, it's likely that's where it comes from, isn't it? I don't know if I mean, tegim is more like T for house in Welsh. And whether we've adopted the right through influence through English or whatever the word caban is fairly likely. I'm not sure. I don't know if we have a separate derivation of that other than possibly it just came from English.
Yeah. Or it's changed meaning, right? Tegim changed meaning from cabin to house. Yeah. And Daniel, what would it be in Breton?
In Breton, that will be Budzo and Derwen e Kreis etre arwar wen ag a horti. To say a cabin, there's a word, it's loge, longe. It comes from French. But to say a cabin, like an old cabin, something like in the forest, there's a horti. That means a whole house. But we put the adjective before the noun. Then it means it's old. It's a cabin. It's a ruined house. Voilà. If you say antiquour, that's an ancient house, an old house.
Yeah. Very interesting. And Paul, what would it be in Manx?
In Manx, it would be Ta darach os a vein, either an awin veden as an shan. Now here you could either say, I could say an shan thai for the old house, but a cabin would probably be an shan chaben, or even an shan wen. Bwen means like a shed type shack. Caben means a cabin or even a tent. But the cognate is thai, meaning a house. I have a question. Is there another word for an actual house then? If this tegim word is like a cabin, is there another word for a big, normal domestic dwelling?
Or is it the same
Yes,
thing?
of
Do you
course.
know?
I think I'll just look it up just to be sure. My dictionary I have in the PDF right here, and I think it's ategia. I think the word for house. Yes, if I'm yeah.
The reason I'm asking is I know that in terms of the Romance languages, Latin, the word, for example, the Italian word casa used to mean a small house, not very good house, and domus meant the proper house. I think casa almost meant cabin or shack, and that was the word that became the normal word for house. So I wondered whether the same thing had happened here.
Oh yeah, probably because words change meaning all the time, and that wouldn't surprise me. Actually, casa in Latin became chez in French, which means at. Yeah, like when you're at somebody, you say chez. It's casa. It's just the evolution from Latin to French. It changed the words a lot and the meaning sometimes also. So the word for house, maybe if it's too long, you can cut it out. But I'm sure I can find it.
While you're looking, I'll talk about some Manx cognates. The enter, I never thought about this before, but in Manx for between we say ether, and now that I've seen it, I remember that in Old Irish, nt generally becomes t, the n drops away. So, for example, the Manx word for 100 is keed, which would have been Kate in Old Irish, from Kent even earlier. So the NT becomes just a T or a D. So enter would become ether, which is what the Manx word is, ether. But I didn't recognise that one before I saw the English. We have the word fin for white as well. Fin, white or bright, but it's not a common word. The normal word is beden or ban, with a different derivation.
So yeah, ategia is also a word for cabin, so I was wrong. And for the word I'm using here, it can mean cabin or house actually. So for the sentence, I went for cabin just to get an idea that it's in the woods, but it's actually it means house also.
So if we changed our translations here to have the word T or on the end rather than caban, and in Breton and Manx, we'd be closer still, or slightly closer. There's a few clear cognates now.
Yes, which is very interesting. So when I give you the translation, you can all kind of see more of what's going on and understand where the words are from, and understand how the Celtic languages are, closer. Like Gaulish is not that different, maybe in pronunciation, mostly in pronunciation and in morphology, but the roots, most of them are there.
But here's the really interesting thing.
So I think we reached the section of the video where you can freely talk about your experience with the Gaulish language. So yeah, Angharad, what's your impressions?
Yeah. The really interesting thing is that I would have been able to contribute half as much had I not had a knowledge of some of the Romance languages. It's very clear that that there was a lot in there. I mean, like enter just now in that one just now, which is entre in French, of course. And without that knowledge of some of the Romance languages, and etsy at the beginning, which is also common in other European languages, but is not in Welsh. So I'm picking up. When looking at that, I'm picking up some words because I know them in Welsh, but some words because I'm familiar with them in other languages or familiar with something similar. And that was quite interesting.
Mm-hmm. So maybe, Morgan, you could tell us a little bit about the relationship of Gaulish with Romance languages. Like, why we see so many connections there?
Yeah, of course. So the first thing is a lot of the words we know from Gaulish are from inscriptions that come after the Roman conquest of Gaul and other regions that spoke Gaulish, but Latin has had an influence. So my reading of Gaulish, we don't know how it was pronounced exactly, but the way I read it is kind of like I'm reading Latin with some exceptions, because they adopted the Latin alphabet, and then we can assume that they used letters that are closer, that are correct for the phonology. So as when a language adopts a writing system, over time, the pronunciation becomes kind of removed from that writing system. So we can assume it was pronounced the same way as Latin. In another way also, some words could come from Latin because Latin has had a lot of influence on Gaulish during that period of what we could call a Romanization or kind of creolization between the cultures. And you see Latin words being used on Gaulish inscriptions, either for personal names or like industrial context. You see words for, for wine, for example. So different specific technical industrial terms that come from Latin and are used in a Gaulish sentence that's written out. So I wouldn't say that dede, for example, which is similar to dedi in Latin, which means I gave, or like enter with like inter in Latin. I wouldn't say they come from Latin necessarily, but there's something going on, and they were very close to each other for as long as they existed, Latin and Gaulish. So there must have been some kind of, what you could say a Sprachbund, like they have things in common, but they're not necessarily from the same family. Although some academics might say they're from the same family, it's not proven, it's not accepted.
Mm-hmm. Daniel, what about you? What are your thoughts?
Well, I recognize some of the words in Gaulish because I know that some words that we have in Breton, like the H in Breton, is often an old S in Gaulish. So this is why I was able to recognize some of the words, and I know also that sounds like B often becomes W or V in Breton. So that were little hints where I could kind of recognize some words, some of them. Yeah, but it feels it feels foreign. It feels foreign anyway.
Mm-hmm. And Paul, what about you?
Yeah, similar things. For me, I think my knowledge of Welsh actually helped a bit more than my knowledge of Manx. Although, knowing how the Manx words are spelt in Scottish and Irish Gaelic helped a bit as well, because they use an etymological way of spelling where they have lots of silent letters which show you what the word used to be hundreds of years ago. So that helped a bit. And but it was very much, it did look more like Latin or something rather than a modern Celtic language. And of course, there weren't any mutations or anything like that we're so used to. And there were case endings and things, which Manx still has a few, fossilized instances of, but they're not really there aren't as many case endings in Manx as there used to be in Old Irish, for example. But yeah, so it did look very different and sounded very different.
Yeah, great. Thanks. So thank you very much for making this happen. This is such a unique opportunity to bring all the Celtic languages speakers to have a look at their past in some ways. So that was very interesting.